Hello, everyone. How you doing today? I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of HAMA Live. This is 2 days in a row. We're back, and when we come back hard. Today, we're going to focus on the Mamluk project. What's the Mamluk project, you ask? Well, there is a treatise, Mamluk treatise, that the Historical African Martial Arts Association has, with the help of some other people, we've been attempting to get translated. And right now, I'm going to introduce the folks that are helping to get that done. First is Mansa Mari. You know him all. He was on yesterday. He is the Chief Operations Operator Officer. I don't know. What are you, Mansa?
As the Chief Operations Officer, man. COO.
I got stuck in the O's. Up next, we have Abu Isa. Abu Isa, you unmute your mic. There you go. And please introduce yourself and let the folks know who you are for the project, what you're doing for the project.
Sure. So I'm the former owner of Siraj Publications, who was enlisted to start this project years ago. And through the various iterations and bumps along the road, I've stuck through to continue and see it finished.
All right. And last but definitely not least, my man Mashari. Mashari, how are you?
Good, you? How's it going?
All right. Introduce yourself and let the folks know what you're doing for the project. What's your contribution?
All right. So my name is Mashari Al-Otaibi. I started as well with Abu Isa when we were back at Siraj. I'm basically the lead translator for the textbook al-makhzūn or jāmiʻ al-funūn. And so basically my role is to try to because the original text is not written in very I'd say classical Arabic, so it's between the classical and some kind of dialect. So I would implement my knowledge of both the classical and different dialects and try to make sense of it and then translate it into English.
All right. Okay. Mansa, this is your baby. This was your idea, so I'm going to let you take the lead on this one. Okay.
Sure. All right. So I guess we'll talk a little bit. Sorry, you're going to ask a question?
No, I was going to say the floor is yours.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about the history of this project. So a couple of years ago, when HAMA started, there was a lot of conversation about what sort of texts are used for our study. And in the very beginning, we were going on a combination of literary accounts of battles, old videos, and we were also going on living traditions. For the backbone of our North African and Sahelian swordsmanship programs is the practice of al-makhzūn, suj, and wakaf. So the idea came with one of our former members to translate the book Kitāb al-makhzūn jāmiʻ al-funūn. Mashari, you can correct me if I pronounce that wrong. And basically, that was our effort to contribute to the larger body of knowledge. So we started a Kickstarter, and through the grace and generosity of the HAMA community, the HEMA community, and enthusiasts and historians worldwide, we raised enough money to be able to work with formerly Siraj Publications, now just Abu Isa, to arrange getting Mashari's help and leadership to work through this project. And so for the last couple of years, we've been slugging through it page by page, line by line, picking things apart, trying to figure out ways that we could properly understand it. As Mashari mentioned earlier, this is not written in Fusha, which is a more, what's the word I want to put, more standardized, sort of the idealized Arabic. And it's not exactly modern al-Masri Arabic because this was the 1400s. So we're trying to pin this together out of these various official dialects and then trying to pull it out of the assumed knowledge, because this was a book written for somebody who was already familiar with Mamluk combat. So this is basically what we've been on over the last little while.
Okay. All right. So what have what have been some of the obstacles in getting this translated?
Well, one of the big ones is the complexity of the dialect. We have a lot of loan words from like Turkish and some loan words from Persian, and then some things generally, if you've ever done any translation work in any language, and Mashari, I'm going to pass the floor to you after I finish speaking, that things don't always translate exactly between 21st century English and 15th century Egyptian Arabic. So that's one of the issues. Another of the issues is obviously time. Everybody has their own lives, working on their businesses and education and jobs and everything else. So that in itself also has been a hurdle in terms of being able to meet together and get things going. So we've had more than a few challenges. But Mashari, I'll let you speak a little bit on your experience as we've gone through, and then Abu Isa, of course, you can weigh in as well.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to be focusing a little bit on the, I would say, technical or technicality of the issue. We are in front of a text that was written for professionals. It's using a lot of terminology that is known for that were like an axioms, basically, to the readers for the text. I have come across also another book, or I think it's 2 or 3 other books where they used similar terminology. But the thing is, like I said, it's written for professionals. It's not written for basically. It's not like a first year kind of book that you have. It's more like advanced. So I would say that's one of the most or the hardest basically problems that we're facing, because we're trying to understand those words out of a text where most of them are basically a transcription of movements, a transcription of some kind of moves, and translating that into an understandable English isn't very easy thing to do, and that's why we hold basically sessions to review the translated work to make sure that we are going through it perfectly. I would go through the Arabic as well as the English, so we can consider between the both and basically come up with the best understanding. Which is not a very easy thing to do. It's basically time consuming, and we're hoping to also get over that obstacle, which is another obstacle with the translation, which is a time, as well as Manta explained with all of us having many things to do in life. You know what I mean? But in technicality, I would say the terminology, specifically the professional terminology, would be the hardest part of the translation, because most of these words they mean something basically in Arabic, but the thing is sometimes with the terms it's not the basic mean of the word, it's the actual context that is given during a specific situation or a specific I'd say era. So yeah, that's from my opinion, and I would pass it to Abu Isa if he so he can give us his opinion as well.
I think very much the same as what Mashari was saying. Is a lot of the terminology is going to be difficult to understand in context in the first place. But I would also add that because of the very nature of the project, because the project is important, this makes it difficult. If the project didn't contain any new information, it would be easy to translate. If we were taking a project that there's already some translations or attempts, there's already commentaries in other contexts. But if we were dealing with a text that had been entirely translated into English already, and we were just refining and interpreting it in the context of practical martial arts, that would be easier. But because what we're doing is we're taking a text that's never really fully been completely understood in a 21st century English context, and we're bringing it into that context. So there are many examples where even if you can translate each Arabic concept and each idea, and you go through each word, the sentence you end up with, it still is very far from understanding it in English and then practicing it in English. So that can be very difficult. And we're running into, basically on each page, there's something where even when we get the understanding in its original context, to try to bring it forward into a better, a more complete understanding of what's supposed to be done, whether it comes to the materials, when the text is talking about certain types of weapons or parts of the saddle or kinds of horses or any of these things. They have a meaning in Arabic. They have a meaning in Arabic at the time, and then the question of, what does that mean for us? How do we do it? How do we see it? What is this technique actually supposed to look like? So I think, in addition to what Mashari was saying, where the original Arabic is very difficult to get your hands on, once you fully have a grip, and I think we're all very thankful that we have Mashari, who's uniquely positioned. Really, it's very difficult to find somebody who's got a unique set of talents like that, who can get a firm grip of the Arabic in that context, and then bring it forward into practical application is another very big step.
Okay. Let's talk successes. Mansa, would you like to highlight some of the successes that we've had in translating the book?
Well, I'll say our biggest success has been the release of the 2020 progress report. This contains about 50% of the written portion of the text. And so this is what we've been successfully able to interpret, which includes several different exercises, things that we've been able to learn about how they trained for riding horses, different combinations, or we call them bands, for using the lance. That's been a really great success for us. As well, we've been able to tease out some specific techniques, which we were able to put on the HAMA YouTube channel. And I'll say the biggest success, even beyond the booklet, is the fact that we've still been able to keep working on this consistently over time, and that we're continuing to make regular progress.
Okay. Abu Isa, what some positive aspect for you about this whole project?
To me, so I have a degree from the University of Lethbridge in history. I have a particular interest in history and linguistics, and to me, the successes that stand out in this project are the linguistic and the historical novelties, the things that we actually discovered. And that, for me, is just thrilling to be able to see examples in the Arabic language of uses of words that are literally found nowhere else. And so we've actually discovered the use of this Arabic dialect. Also, suspected things such as Persian influence that we can now confirm, which is it's just, like I said, it's thrilling to be part of that. And then on top of that, we're uncovering techniques. We're uncovering there's a reference to hadith that it's not verified within hadith or anything like that, but to be exposed to a new angle on historical personages and time periods and stuff. It's just amazing to sort of be at the forefront of uncovering that information.
Nice. Mashari, a positive experience for you has been.
So, besides what Mansa and Abu Isa have mentioned, I would say one of the biggest successes for me, besides basically translating what I've been translating so far, is being able to reorder some of the pages, because the book itself, the text is not ordered. It's the pages are all over the place. So we've been able to recover some of the order basically by following the text of the end of the page and the other one. And basically, one of the funny thing is that the first page, or the introduction, basically, the rest of it was found in the middle of the book. So it's basically, it's got many. So we're trying also to have a more I would say logical order by ordering some of the things that we couldn't. We were thinking of collecting everything that's about lance, everything that's about sword fighting, everything that's about chivalry, or basically horse riding, and we're trying to make sense of it, because that's the thing, the book itself is that's the manuscript that we have, and beside that we couldn't. I was able to find a reference in another book that was written by an Andalusian scholar, and that was very beneficial because it has some of the order for some pages in regards with horse riding, but that was like a one drop in a sea. So it's not very easy basically to reorder it. So I would say we've been successful so far in ordering what we have ordered thus far. However, I'm still looking forward to even have more advances in terms of ordering, besides basically translating it. So that's from my I'd say linguistic perspective.
So to give folks, a good idea, not only are we translating this, we are putting it in context, and we're putting it in logistical order.
Exactly.
It's like we could have handed out a translation, already, correct? And like,
exactly.
This is what this word is. This word right here means this, but it would not have meant much to almost anyone. Is that correct to say?
Exactly. If it was only for translating the words merely, that's the task, that would have been finished a long time ago. But the thing is that we have a book that's not ordered in the right order. We have a book that's not written in Fusha or in classical Arabic, so it's got a little bit of both. And as well, we have a book that's aimed towards professionals in an era, an age where none of us basically lived. So
an example. Yeah. So an example would be like, they tell us to shoot the birdie, but it's like what's shoot the birdie? Unless you're familiar, no, we don't know, and it's just like shooting a birdie. So just shoot a birdie, but to the left. Like, oh, what? Okay, like, so that's some of the stuff that we're dealing with, correct?
Exactly. That's the thing, because some of the terminology it was agreed upon in that time. Nobody basically asked. So if I'm telling someone, if I'm gonna be given an example, imagine that I was telling someone, okay, stop at the traffic light, and then take a U-turn. If this statement was to be thrown 700 years ago, nobody would understand what I'm saying. What is a traffic light? What is a U-turn? You know what I mean? Yeah. These are terms that you don't explain to people nowadays, because everyone knows. If I'm to be writing a book, I wouldn't be explaining what a U-turn is. It's something that everybody knows. You know what I mean? Let alone that basically I'm not merely explaining a U-turn or something like that. It's more professional context. You know what I mean? So it's really not that easy. I would say from like I said, from my part, from a linguistic point of view, but even from trying to revive basically the content of that book into something that is to be lived, into something that to be basically experienced and to be done. It's even harder than merely translating it.
All right. I just want to say I appreciate. I consider myself a layman, in this. So I appreciate being in the meetings with you gentlemen, and watching each of you in your expertise, work. So it's a pleasure for me for watching all of you in your different areas do your thing. But I'm going to talk martially. So Mansa, give us some of the martial things that we've been able to pull from the book, from the translations.
So one of the things that we've been able to notice from the translation and from some of the ancillary materials is that the use of the lance specifically, because that's how far we've gotten so far, is very dynamic. So you'll find moves like the dawlab, which is sort of a big sweeping motion. You'll find movements that actually are inspired by some of the kingdoms that they were next to. So for example, there is a move called the Syrian bloc, which was actually appropriated. They refer to them as the Romans, but they're actually talking about the Byzantines. So that gives an inclination that some of their work or some of their movements were inspired by their encounters with the Byzantine Empire. So we can see that there are connections with other places. Another great example is the Khorasani block, which is sort of a sideways vertical block. Khorasan, and my pronunciation may be off, is actually a region in Persia, which tells us as well that there must have been some relationship with horsemen in Persia for them to appropriate that move and name it after a region in Persia. So these are some of the things. There's a lot. I mean, I could literally be here all day talking about the little martial things that we've learned as a result of what's been translated so far.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what we're here for. So, so talk about just talk about one drill.
Okay. So one aspect of the drills that comes to a lot is this movement called the Zendaya or the Zendaya, however you want to pronounce it. It's the movement, not the actress. The way that it works is you're basically taking the spear and however you thrusted it or struck with it, you are wheeling it around your back. And you actually see this in other texts like Mihyat al-Sul. You actually have an image of a Mamluk rider performing a Zendaya on the back of his horse with his shield up guarding his head and the spear behind him. And that shows there are a couple of different reasons for doing that. One of them is it's an easy way to recover the spear, remembering that this is a very long pointed weapon, which means that you have to deal with the question of leverage. So if you're moving it one-handed, holding the bottom of it, you're going to need momentum to move it to the place that you want it to go. So that's one value of the Zendaya. Another is that it's a good way to sweep behind your horse. So if, for example, you're being chased by somebody who's swinging a lance at you, a Zendaya, which is very similar to a movement called the Rasha in Kitāb, will help guard your back or sweep any attacks that might be coming from behind. It's also a good way to control it without without hitting any of your compatriots if you are riding in close or medium order among your cavalry compatriots. So, I might have somebody on this side and I might have somebody on this side and I might have somebody behind me. Taking my lance and then just swinging it over my back might accidentally result in me unhorsing the person next to me. But instead, wrapping it around closely, that will allow you to keep it close to your body and your horse, not put your horse at risk, not put your colleagues at risk, and then couch it back into the position that you need it to in order to be able to use it properly.
Okay. All right.
I'll if I can just add a bit of a teaser. I won't give too much away on what we're currently working on, but another martial technique that we're currently trying to decipher is a method of thrusting with the lance that so far we haven't been able to replicate or see in any other context. So we're working with other horsemanship groups, other historical research groups to try to find evidence of this thrusting technique it's sort of thoroughly described in the text in a way that is completely alien to anyone who's familiar with jousting and lance work. So before we sort of release our interpretation, we want to figure out what it even is, and that's that speaks a little bit to the difficulties we've been dealing with and to the importance of the project and the sort of martial techniques. Hopefully, we'll end up with a new thrusting technique, but there's always the possibility that we realize, oh wait, that word's not that word, and it actually it's just a technique that everybody knows.
Okay. So we put out updates. Mansa, how often do we put out updates on the project?
Our goal is to try and do a monthly update by either the middle or the end of each month. And that would usually be after we've had about 2-3 meetings between members of the project team, and we've been able to take a look at what's been done so far. Some of the things that we do in the case that we are kind of stuck on a section is we try to release ancillary materials. Frank, who is a member of the project team but isn't actually here on the chat, he, for example, did a timeline of the arms and armor of the Mamluk warriors, and different diversity you might see of what a Mamluk is. Most people, for example, would refer to the Mamluks as narrowly the Kipchak Turks, who were the elite cavalry in Egypt. But the term Mamluk actually applied to any slave or bonded soldier that worked within the Islamic world. So this could reference anyone from the Mamluks that we have in Egypt to Prince Ismail's Black Guard in Andalusia. So it's a very wide term. So we do have ancillary materials where we discuss things like that. We also try to release videos of what we've been able to figure out so far. And, we generally just try to let everybody know what we have been doing since the last update.
Okay. And where can we find those updates?
So those updates are available on 2 places. If you are a contributor and you've been on the Kickstarter, we will post a shortened summary of those updates whenever they're available. We also set up a landing page on hamassociation.wordpress.com. You can just look under the research section of our page and find the Mamluk Project's landing page. There is an entire list of every update we've done since the very beginning, as well as a background and bios on members of the project team. Also with links to other ancillary materials that might be of interest.
Okay. All right. So we just started the Mamluk Project page on Facebook. How's that going?
So it's going pretty well. We have a lot of people who have joined in. We do have some of the material that we've done before that's shared in there. We are trying to encourage everybody with the Facebook group to share what they have learned. So just a bit of a background on this new study group that we started. We launched it last week. And the purpose of this group is specifically to allow the community to come together and try their hand at interpreting what has been translated so far. This isn't necessarily for HAMA to take whatever everybody's created and say we did it, but this is more a question of this project belongs to the community. And so it doesn't make sense for us to translate this. And when we did promise we would give out free copies of the book, but essentially it doesn't make sense for us to take this and then hoard all of the techniques and then assume that we know everything that comes out of it. We properly understand everything that was written. That was not the purpose. So this particular group exists for practitioners, enthusiasts, people who are just Mamluk fans to all get together and to essentially try as a community collective to figure out what's in the book and come up with what the community believes is the best interpretation of what is in it. For us, there are no wrong answers.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, one of the updates that I liked was you mentioned Frank. He did a presentation about the armor, and
Yes.
that was one that I like, and I think the community seemed to like that one as well. So you want to tell everyone about that one?
Sure. So Frank he's a master's in history. He teaches the subject. His specialization was in North Africa, and he actually is a member of Razmafzar, who is sort of the Persian counterpart to what we do with the Mamluk Project. And so their specific focus is Persian arms and armor, which is very closely related to what is practiced in North Africa, obviously with regional and cultural differences. So in his particular video, he actually talks about soft armor, or in English we'll call it the gambeson, that was worn underneath the leather or the chainmail armor, or later on the crib plate sets that the Mamluk warriors would wear. He also talked about something interesting that's called a Tariz band. So Tariz bands are actually an item that is worn to denote a person's rank, military standing, or prowess. And usually it's put on the arms of the person's kit. So outside of their chain, which might hang about here, or which come a little bit over, or the baza bands, which would come about up to the elbow, between that space, you will see the bands on either side of their arms, and that will say, for the glory of the Sultan, or whatever military awards they received, or what rank they're in. There are various things that the bands could represent. So that's one of the things that he covers in the video. But in the arms and armor sets, what we have on the HAMA page, which is the articles, it actually goes through everything from the early days under the Ayyubids to the late days under the Ottomans, and up until essentially when Napoleon shows up, and that's the end of the Mamluks. So there are, it's several centuries worth of history, and they're at different times they use different types of arms and armor because they were fighting in different contexts. Some things seem to stay the same, like being able to use the lance, the bow, the sword, the axe, and the knife, and the fact that they were very heavy cavalry focused, but the type of armor that they wore changed over time, the shape of the swords that they used changed over time, and even some of them used firearms instead of bows because in the 19th century it just made more sense to use a musket. So there are lots of different things that are covered in the follow-ups that he's written.
What century is our manuscript? Did we say that?
So this particular manuscript is from the 15th century. So I believe it was compiled in 1475. But what is really important to understand about this particular text is that the ultimate compilation of it was 1470. The content is actually much older. There are some who might believe that this goes all the way back to, say, the 7th century. And then it was just added on to over the years as new techniques appeared and new weapon technology developed. And so it was adjusted and rewritten and new chapters were added. So in terms of the text we are working from, 1470 is the year that text was compiled. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't contain bits and pieces of older texts that have come forward.
Okay, I got you. So I'm assuming that is what also adds to the complications of translations for Mashari down there. Okay. All right. So what's
exactly.
next? What's our next steps?
So our next major step is to continue translating.
What's our next steps? Not just Mansa.
Yeah, guys.
Well, I'm focused right now on translating the section about the thrust, the specific thrust technique that's used. He dedicates an entire page to it, so it seems to be important to the author. For reference, he dedicates one page to I think 17 techniques that are just listed, 1 or 2 pages. And then he dedicates an entire page to this one technique. So trying to get that right, I think, is important.
Okay. Hang on. We have a question from Alexander Gent. Do you have a Telegram group? I'd be keen to link in with you guys. Glad someone is finally doing this. Alexander, we have we have a few social media groups. If you really want to talk with us, chat, the best one would be the Facebook group, the Mamluk Project. That's the name of it. You can check that out on Facebook. Join that. The 4 of us are there, as well as the community. Several of our sponsors, our donors are there, as well as the HAMA and HAMA community. So if you want to link with us and talk about it, that would be most likely the best place to reach us. Mashari, what's next for you?
Okay, so for me, beside basically continuing translating, I came across a couple of books, precisely 3, that were from the same or from similar era. They got some similar topics, although not all of them basically are talking about the exactly same things. But what I'm trying to do right now is basically acquiring those books. 2 of them are they do have online versions, but one of them is only hard cover. So I contacted the basically the publication house for that book, and I'm waiting for the response. I would like to it has gotten a full, basically, chapter that's similar to one of the chapters of the book that we're working on. So I think that would be very beneficial, especially that the book is not just a manuscript. Someone was already gone through that. So I think that would be beneficial. After I tried basically the book by the Andalusian Ibn Hudayr, I believe his name, that was very beneficial basically, and it explained a lot of things, especially that for that one it was written in classical Arabic. So some of the terms they were basically clarified, I would say. But that's the next step for me. I think it's going to be a lot more helpful. But as I say, it does not have all the basically the chapters that we're looking for, but at least it will bring us a lot of steps, I would say, forth. So yeah, besides basically translating, which is my primary task in the group, that's the aim for me right now.
And Mansa, what's next for you, buddy?
Well, just to continue working on the text, we need to continue working on translating, working on properly understanding what is in it. I do want to work with Daman and I will be working on putting together some more video for people to see what we've been able to understand from the context of what is written. Obviously, there are some challenges because I do not have access to a horse. And so aside from getting a hobby horse at the dollar store and riding around my backyard, I have to try to adapt what is in the text to being on foot. We haven't really gotten to the footland section, so there might be some differences in that, but at least understanding where the hands are supposed to be at certain times in a maneuver is basically the place to start. So just continuing to work on getting the translation forward and developing more ancillary materials until the project is finished.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I think we have one more comment. Sounds like such an amazing project. Well, thank you very much. So far, yeah, it has been amazing. I've been amazed. Like I said, I'm amazed watching these folks work. You know, I've been a part of the whole thing. I get copies of what's been translated and you know, the drills and the moves, and I drop my spear every time. Like it's hard for me. But then I'll watch Adam take the same thing and do a video, and I'm like, okay, well that is what it says, but it's a little harder for me. So it's been good watching you folks. Well, we have contact with Stables. If you need interrogation on horseback, so we got some help in the coming out of the UAE.
Let me get my armor.
You corrected that. Interpretation.
Yeah.
Interpretation. Thank you. You know, so why don't you know what you can do? Throw some videos on the Facebook page for us. We would really help. You know, it would really help to see some of the things, you know, on a horse, on horseback. We would appreciate that. You know, the UAE. OSA may have to get with those riders in Philly to collaborate. You know what? I've thought about that. Those folks. He's talking about the Concrete Cowboys. It's a group of, you know, inner city riders here in Philadelphia. Recently, Idris Elba did a movie for them. So they're kind of busy. Like I did holler at them, but you know, good for them. Like I had a contact with them in the past. I've seen the struggle, but right now they seem to be very, very busy. So you know, when things slow down for them, maybe I will reach out and try to get some concrete Mamluks here in Philadelphia. So,
Well, guess
gentlemen, is
we'll
there
replace their
anything you want
we'll
to
replace their cowboy hats with turbans.
say? What?
I said we'll replace their cowboy hats and caps with turbans.
Okay, yeah, I'll build them some armor too. You know, we'll armor them up. We'll armor them up. Well, any final thoughts for folks?
Well, I guess I'll start. What I want to invite everyone to do is check out the Mamluk Project Facebook group. There is a copy of the PDF of what's been downloaded so far that is available for you to get today. Check out the page, the Mamluk Project page, so that you can read through some of our updates and see how the project has evolved, and also to learn a little bit about the Mamluks and their history. We invite you to come out, ask us questions, get involved. We may not have all of the answers, but it will give us an opportunity to find more to research. This is, again, a project that belongs to the community. So community involvement is very important to us. So please check it out. Don't be afraid to ask us any questions. And please share what you think you may have learned. This might break something that we've been smashing our heads against for the last little while. So just come out and be involved.
Yeah, I wanted to add the same thing that Adam said, but also the opposite. You should join that Facebook group because I might have questions for you. If you have access to resources or interpretation or something like that, or I see a video you put up while I'm trying to interpret something that we haven't posted yet, I might get in touch with you and be like, hey, can you look at this thing? One example, in the UAE, I don't know if you guys have access to a museum where you can get some access to some material culture, specifically the saddles, the stirrups, the weapons in question. Having access to some of that material culture will be very helpful to see what's labeled what he's talking about when he's talking about various different implements. So if you join that Facebook group and you chip in a little bit, that gives us access to you, which can sometimes also be beneficial to the project.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So for me, I'm just thankful for all of the folks that are contributing, whether in this group or whether in the community. I would say also it's very pushing. It's very good to see people actually in the community engaging. It's good to see that the work we're doing is, for me, I'm doing an academic thing. I'm doing just a linguistic thing, and when I see what I'm doing is basically reviving and getting alive, it's a very good feeling, and it's helping us even in terms of motivating us. So I would encourage everyone who thinks they're enthusiastic of what we're doing to basically join us, contribute with their opinions. Also in terms of translation, if they thought that some word would should be here or shouldn't be here, they're more than welcome to do so. And thanks for you, Damon, to basically invite us into this one. And I would like to thank also all the viewers and those who have left us comments. And thanks so much.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. I appreciate you being here. Look forward to talking to you again.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us.
Viewers, thank you for being here with us for another episode of HAMA Live. Let us know what you think, in the comments. And we'll have some more updates for you soon. And thank you for being here.
The Historical African Martial Arts Association's Hero Series celebrates the great military leaders of Africa's past. Order yours today at teespring.com.